What you do between 7 in the evening and the moment you close your eyes could be the difference between waking up tomorrow or not waking up at all. I know that sounds dramatic. I know it sounds like something designed to scare you. But after 23 years of treating cardiac patients, I need you to understand something that keeps me awake at night. The majority of fatal heart attacks occur between 4 and 10 in the morning. Not randomly. Not by coincidence. They happen because of what people did the night before. Their evening routines programmed their hearts for disaster while they slept peacefully, completely unaware that a storm was building inside their chest. I'm Dr. Chen, and I've held the hands of spouses who lost their partners overnight. I've watched families collapse in grief because someone they loved went to bed feeling fine and never woke up. And far too often, when I trace back what happened, I find the same patterns repeating themselves. Patterns that started after 7 in the evening, habits that seemed harmless, routines that felt comforting, choices that nobody warned them about. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly what these dangerous evening habits are, why they become exponentially more dangerous after age 60, and precisely what you should do instead. This information has the potential to save your life, but more importantly, it has the potential to give you years of healthy, active living with the people you love. So please stay with me through the entire video. What you learn in the next few minutes could change everything. Let me start with something that happened just 3 months ago. Robert was 71 years old, retired engineer, sharp mind, loved crossword puzzles. Every evening he followed the same routine. Dinner around 6:30, then he'd settle into his recliner with the television remote in one hand and his tablet in the other. He'd flip between news channels, scroll through social media, read comment sections that made his blood boil. His wife Patricia told me he would get visibly agitated. His face would flush. He'd mutter under his breath about politics, about the state of the world, about everything that was wrong. This went on until 11 or sometimes midnight. Then he'd go straight to bed, still wound up, still processing the anger and frustration he'd been marinating in for hours. One Tuesday morning, Patricia woke up to find Robert unresponsive. He'd suffered a massive heart attack sometime in the early hours. He survived barely, but the damage to his heart was severe and permanent. Here's what I need you to understand. Robert didn't have a heart attack because of bad genes or terrible luck. He had a heart attack because his evening routine was systematically destroying his cardiovascular system. Every night, for years, he was flooding his body with stress hormones during the exact hours when his heart needed peace. You see, your body operates on a circadian rhythm, an internal clock that governs everything from hormone release to blood pressure regulation. After 7 in the evening, your body is supposed to begin winding down. Cortisol, the stress hormone, should be declining. Your blood pressure should be gradually lowering. Your heart rate should be slowing. Your entire cardiovascular system is preparing for the most important restorative process of your life, sleep. But when you spend your evenings consuming content that triggers anger, anxiety, fear, or outrage, you hijack this natural process completely. Instead of declining, cortisol surges. Instead of lowering, blood pressure spikes. Instead of preparing for peaceful rest, your heart is running a marathon while you sit perfectly still in your living room. And here's the critical part. When you finally do fall asleep with all that stress chemistry still circulating, your body doesn't recover properly. Your blood pressure doesn't drop the way it should during sleep, a phenomenon we call non-dipping. This non-dipping pattern is directly associated with increased heart attack and stroke risk. The damage accumulates night after night after night. But stressful content consumption is only one piece of this puzzle. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was 68, a grandmother of 4, and she prided herself on being health conscious. She walked every morning, she watched her diet, she took her medications exactly as prescribed. But Margaret had one habit she never thought to question. Every evening after dinner, usually around 8 o'clock, she would have a glass or 2 of wine, sometimes 3. She called it her relaxation ritual. It helped her unwind, it helped her sleep, or so she believed. When Margaret came to me after experiencing heart palpitations and shortness of breath, her echocardiogram revealed something troubling. Her heart was enlarged and weakening. She had the early stages of alcoholic cardiomyopathy. Margaret was stunned. She wasn't a heavy drinker. She never got intoxicated. She just had wine with dinner and maybe a bit more while watching her shows. How could this possibly damage her heart? The truth about alcohol in your heart is far more nuanced than most people realize. For decades, we heard about the supposed benefits of moderate drinking. Red wine and heart health became almost synonymous, but recent large-scale studies have essentially demolished this myth. The reality is that any amount of alcohol creates a dose-dependent increase in atrial fibrillation risk, the most common heart arrhythmia and a major cause of stroke. And here's what makes evening drinking particularly dangerous for people over 60. As we age, our bodies metabolize alcohol more slowly. What might have cleared your system in 2 hours at 40 years old now takes 3 or 4 hours at 65. When you drink in the evening, that alcohol is still actively affecting your cardiovascular system as you sleep. It disrupts REM sleep, the restorative phase your heart needs most. It causes dehydration, thickening your blood and making clots more likely. It triggers inflammation throughout your cardiovascular system, and it raises your resting heart rate, forcing your heart to work harder during the hours it should be recovering. Margaret thought she was helping herself relax. She was actually poisoning her heart one evening at a time. Now, before I continue, I need to ask you something important. If you're finding value in this information, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I create these videos because I believe everyone deserves access to the knowledge that could save their lives. Subscribing helps me continue this mission. And please share this video with someone you love, especially if they're over 60. You might not be able to force someone to change their habits, but you can make sure they have the information to make better choices. That's all I ask. Now let me tell you about the third evening habit that's silently destroying hearts. George was 74. He had survived a mild heart attack 2 years earlier and was doing everything right, or so he thought. He took his medications religiously. He showed up to every cardiology appointment. But George had developed a habit that seemed completely innocent. After dinner, he would sit in his recliner and barely move until bedtime. No walking, no light activity, just television, snacking, and stillness for 4 or 5 hours straight. What George didn't realize is that prolonged sitting triggers a cascade of negative cardiovascular effects. Blood pools in the lower extremities. Blood flow slows dramatically. The endothelium, the delicate lining of your blood vessels that keeps them healthy and flexible, begins to dysfunction after just 1 hour of uninterrupted sitting. For someone like George, with existing cardiovascular disease, this evening immobility was essentially priming his arteries for disaster. Studies have shown that even people who exercise regularly cannot fully offset the damage of prolonged evening sitting. Your morning walk, as beneficial as it is, does not give you permission to remain stationary for the rest of the day. The body needs consistent movement distributed throughout all waking hours. The fourth pattern I see destroying hearts after 7 in the evening involves something you probably do every single night without thinking about it: heavy eating close to bedtime. Your body handles food very differently at night compared to morning. Insulin sensitivity decreases as the day progresses. When you eat a large meal at 8 or 9 in the evening, your body struggles to process it efficiently. Blood sugar spikes higher and stays elevated longer. Blood pressure increases from the digestive load. And if you lie down within 2 to 3 hours of eating, you dramatically increase your risk of acid reflux, which has been linked to atrial fibrillation through the vagal nerve connection between your esophagus and heart. I've seen patients whose irregular heartbeats completely resolved once they simply stopped eating after 7 in the evening. Their hearts weren't defective. Their timing was. So what should you do instead? The solutions are simpler than you might expect, but they require intentionality. First, create a stress cutoff time. No news consumption, no social media scrolling, no content that elevates your emotional state after 7 in the evening. Protect those precious hours before sleep like your life depends on them, because it does. Second, if you currently drink alcohol in the evening, consider eliminating it entirely for 30 days and observe what happens. Many of my patients report sleeping better, having more stable heart rhythms, and feeling genuinely more rested. Third, build movement into your evening routine. It doesn't need to be exercise. A 15-minute walk after dinner, standing during commercials, light stretching while watching television, keep the blood flowing. Fourth, finish eating by 7 if at all possible. Give your body 3 full hours to digest before lying down. Your heart will thank you. The evening hours are not just the end of your day, they are the foundation of tomorrow's health. Every choice you make after 7 in the evening either builds or erodes the resilience of your heart. Robert, Margaret, George, and countless others never received this warning. They followed evening routines that felt normal because everyone around them was doing the same thing. But normal does not mean safe. Common does not mean healthy. You now have information that most people will never hear. The question is what you will do with it. I encourage you to share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you noticed connections between your evening habits and how you feel the next morning? Your stories help others recognize patterns in their own lives. And please, remember that while this information is powerful, it works best in partnership with your personal physician. Talk to your doctor about your evening routine. Ask them how your specific health conditions might be affected by the habits we discussed today. You have more control over your heart health than you've been led to believe. Exercise that control tonight, starting at 7.